One.
Great. Hey, welcome to the Templeton Advisory Committee meeting here June 1st, 2023, here at 6:30 p.m. The Templeton Advisory Committee meeting, regular business meeting, is being broadcast live on TCTV Channel 8 and on TCTV YouTube channel, responsibly made to comments on the TCTV YouTube channel as time permits. The agenda and meeting and material for this business meeting were posted to mytowngovernment.org no later than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting, in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting laws. And I do have to apologize. This meeting was scheduled for last week, but we had to bump it till today, a week later. So this material has been published for greater than almost a week and a half, 2 weeks. The chair reserves the right to add items or to remove items or to change the order of the agenda. However, the agenda is posted in advance to give the committee and public time to review the agenda items and to ensure the meeting runs within the allotted time frame. With that being said, I am going to call the meeting to order. Boom, boom, at 6:30. Here we go. Can we stand up to the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. And again, thank you for joining us here. If you do have questions, please just put them on the side there. And if we have time, we'll definitely get to those questions if we see them. Okay. All right. First order of business we need to do is we need to reorganize the advisory committee for chair, vice chair, clerk. We also need to appoint somebody for the capital committee member, capital committee member, as well as the FY24 meeting schedule, which I'll talk more about once we get to that point. I'll entertain any type of.
I move that John Caplis be elected chair for the coming year.
I second.
Okay, all right, I'll accept that position. Thank you. Let's do a roll call vote. Mike?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
make a motion to appoint Noel Francis as vice chairman.
Okay, I have a motion. I'll second that. No, would you accept that position?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll take a roll call vote. Mike?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. I'll make the motion at this point to appoint Mike Uvrata as the clerk for the advisory committee for this coming year.
Second.
I have a motion second. Any discussion? I see none. Let's do a roll call vote. Mike?
Do I get to say no?
No. You don't.
I can vote.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And roll call vote, Mike? You vote yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. No, you were on the capital committee member last year. Would you want to maintain to be on there?
I would.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to maintain Noel Francis on the capital committee as our representative from the advisory committee to that committee.
I second it.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion? I see none. Mike, how do you vote?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay, the FY24's meeting schedule has not been done yet, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about the summer first, because I would like to make a motion to get the next 3, June, July, and August off. And then start back up in September, and then by the middle of August, I'll have the yearly calendar already set for this coming year, if that's all right with you folks. But I know I have other things coming down the pike, specifically something coming down on this agenda item that's coming down here that we need to have a potential joint meeting with the select board on June 14th. But when I get there, but as far as us having an advisory committee meeting specifically for us, I'd like to make a motion to get the June, July, and August off, and then start right back up in September. And we have any issues with that?
No.
Okay.
You need a motion,
Uh,
or do you wish to defer that until you can make a schedule?
I mean, as long as we understand that June, July, and August, we won't have any set advisory committee meetings, but in August, I will have a set schedule, which will we start in September.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that gets published and posted.
So we'll meet in September on 20th, is that correct?
It'll be the third Wednesday of the month.
That's September 20th?
But I will have the entire calendar drafted out, and if there's any other things that we need to have done prior to then, I'll make sure that that gets noted as well.
Just one comment,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. Do you think that with that joint meeting in June with the Board of Selectmen, do you think that that will take care of all the year-end items that?
That's
There
a
always
great
seems to be a
question.
number of items that come up.
That, that's a
every
great
year.
question. Next, we're having a meeting in June. Next thing, we have a meeting in July.
Because my understanding is the select board meets twice in June, I think the 14th and the 28th,
That's
if I'm
correct.
not mistaken. And
Right.
I just have the feeling that something may come up where we have to meet in joint session on the 28th.
Well, I will confer with the town administrator to figure that out if that's gonna happen, because if that's gonna, I mean, then we'll just have to wait until, that time and, but, to meet. I'm not gonna have like 2 meetings if we don't need to do that, I mean,
14th will be tough for me, and I'll tell you why offline,
okay,
but I'll see when I can.
excellent. I'm gonna go over that in a second once I get to that, action items. Okay, so now just so everybody's aware that the reorganization has taken place. I will be the chair for the year, and Noel Francis will be the vice chair, and Mike will be the clerk. And also Noel Francis will be on the capital committee as the representative for the advisory. Thank you.
Also, Mr. Chair, I do
Yeah.
have one other question is, as far as a representative to the Narragansett Regional School Committee
Mhm.
from advisory. Does that position need to be filled? I know you have,
Yeah, I was for when they were doing the agreement. But as far as I was concerned, the agreement's been done and voted on by the town,
so there's no need for
Nope,
an advisor.
not right now.
Okay.
But if there does come a point where there does need to be one, then we'll definitely bring that to the meeting, to the committee. Okay,
Thank you.
okay. And that was for the Narragansett Regional School District Agreement Committee that we did, when we actually helped draft up the committee agreement or the joint agreement that was supposed to be with Phillips and that, that we voted on at our last meeting, thanks to, Mr. Toth and the, select board.
Okay, thank you.
All right, excellent. See, pre-town meeting, April 19th is the only minutes that we have. I think everybody get a chance to look at those.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion at this time unless there's any corrections or annotations that need to have. I think Jackie's been doing a fantastic job. My hat goes off to her.
I would move to accept the minutes as written.
Okay, I have a motion of a second.
Second.
I have a motion of a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Mike, how do you vote?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Mike, when you get a chance, this is the original, can you sign it and get that back to me as soon as you can, Mr. Clerk? We put your name on the bottom. I already figured you were gonna take the position. We're good like that. Thank you, sir. Work in progress. Love it. Any public comments at this time? Anything public coming up? Excellent. Moving on to item 6, new business, public work emergency fund transfer request. Okay, yeah. All right, so there was a public works transfer request that came in. Obviously due to the bylaw and how the bylaw is set up, it requires a joint meeting with the select board. The select board have no vote on that. They have no authority over it. But the way the bylaw is set up, and thanks to a previous member of the select board, they caught it. I didn't even catch it. And I was going through the bylaw, and I'm like, how is this possible? And sure enough, there's a line in there that says, not just end of year funds, like not just, stuff that has to happen at the end of the year. We always meet together with the select board. Anytime that there's funds used, so the emergency reserve funds that we have, the $40,000 that we get budgeted every single year. If we need to move funds from there to someplace else within town government, we have to have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. Again, that do not vote. They have really, we just have to meet together for us to vote, and they watch us vote. which makes absolutely no sense to me personally. Why am I gonna waste other people's time to have a meeting like that? I mean, so I'm gonna make a motion to postpone. Table. Nope, I'm not
Can't
gonna table it.
Yeah, table.
I can't table it because if I table it, that maintains it with us. I'm gonna postpone it to June 14th or potentially June 28th. For a joint meeting to expedite these funds to potentially where they need to go based on our recommendation. With a joint meeting with the select board.
I would amend that by perhaps language or such other time as the select board may meet.
Okay, okay, June 14th or
June 14th, June 28th, or
Or any-
such other time as the select board may meet.
right. That sounds like a good idea. That's a good motion. All right, can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Does anybody understand why that has to happen?
Yes.
Okay, there, if you look at the bylaw, there's a one line in there that stipulates that we have to meet with the select board. And not like end of year fund, we both have to vote. These specific funds are only voted on by the advisory committee.
Yeah, we have to meet with them, but we vote as advisory.
That's right.
Now, I would hope that there would be something on the warrant for the special fall town meeting that would address this
I would hope so,
issue.
because I think that this does not make, I mean, I can understand on one side, like the point would be, but I really can't, that it doesn't help us in any way.
I don't know what the thought process was behind.
I don't know.
Maybe a check and a balance.
A check and balance maybe, but again, I mean, they're gonna check and balance
That's what I
anyways, so
thought.
it's gonna go on their warrant, they have to sign,
Mhm.
and they're gonna see us anyway, so I mean, obviously the paperwork to go forward.
Yeah, the check and the balance already exists.
Right,
Yeah.
this is like a triple check and balance, is like, I mean, which makes no sense, but anyway, so we have that motion, and let's do a roll call vote, Mike, did I
Yes.
already, and no,
Yes,
and I vote yes as well, so that's what that was all about, that's why I actually kept it actually on the agenda, just so I can actually just briefly see that, and if you get the opportunity to relook at the bylaws again for the advisory committee, you know, please take a peek at that section. It's in the lower half section. So that'll be great. All right, let's move on to TCTV letter to the state concerning cable broadcast. No,
yes. I would say about a month ago, I had a conversation with Ms. Castle about the issue of streaming as opposed to traditional cable.
Mhm.
And I would just like if Mr. Castle could address us. You have in your packet a 3 or 4 page outline of the problems that Mr. Castle faces, and also there is a form letter which we can adapt as being from advisory to 2 members of the Massachusetts legislature who are members of the Joint Committee on Advanced Information Technology, the Internet and Cybersecurity.
Mhm.
I think it would be best at this point if we could hear from Mr. Castle.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Mr. Couch, you available to have a seat? Just identify yourself for the folks at home.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good evening.
Evening.
Steve Castle, Director of TCTV and the Cable Department. So I provided your committee, and I also intend to provide the Select Board with this document. Mr. Francis asked me to speak about some of the legislation that's coming up that will affect us. I'll go through it quickly. I know it's involved, and but I felt that I needed to get this information out there because some people really don't understand what we do, or maybe take us for granted.
Right.
So we do 120 meetings or so a year. And this really helps support local democracy, and it's important. Our crew knows that even though meetings might be a chore for us,
No.
it's important, and it's important for our community to have this democracy. So we help provide that, and we do other programming as well. We operate a regional website that we're really trying to get up and running right now. We're starting a digital lab. We create opportunities for people who want to work in this business, which is also important because there aren't a lot of people who want to do media work anymore. And what happens if there aren't those people? Right? And then we don't have that transparency and that democracy. So, and we also cultivate revenue streams, and we're tied into economic development. I look at my job as one that should help economic development just by what TCTV can do for Templeton and helping out area businesses. So I put a little thing in here about community information. It's also being called civic information. As you know, newspapers are on the decline. Your local newspapers are now known as ghost papers because they don't cover your meetings. And that responsibility has fallen to us. We do the job of the newspaper more than the newspaper does in Templeton through our meetings, through our Facebook feed, through what we do on YouTube. And that's become extremely important. I know some legislators have called public access TV stations like ours and community media stations like ours the last vestiges of local journalism. And we're in the perfect position to do it because we televise the meetings and we can take clips of it. We do a news show now. I've been a journalist for more decades than I care to put on my resume anymore. So, and I can help guide the young people into doing that. But we face a lot of roadblocks, and our primary funding is through cable subscriptions. That's dwindling. We've lost in the past 4 years. It's gone 25, 50, 100, 200. We can't go 3 more years and survive like that. So hopefully that stops, but that's a big problem. And we also face government limitations, and the state legislation to help us out has been very, very slow. And that's where we're seeking help as well. The possible solutions I put on page 2 is really, you're looking at our business plan. Basically, in that, we've already opened up avenues to do video sponsorships and production and Montechusett TV sponsorships, which we still have to develop. So as you go down the list, I won't go through them all. I could talk about them all night. I won't bore you with that, but there's a lot of different things that we're trying to do to earn those revenues. So we're not just hoping the state or the town bails us out. And that's been the idea since, we first talked about this in 2015 or 2016. And I said, the race is on. We've got to turn this into a business that can be financially self-sufficient.
Like advertisements and stuff like that with local businesses and things?
Yeah, and we can't actually take advertisements. They have to be donations, so they have to be sponsorships. And that's partly why we're trying to do partnerships with nonprofits, build a digital lab with other nonprofits in the area, other companies, because we can't do it ourselves. We're a small group.
Right.
We need the help of everybody, and we're going to need the help of the whole community, I think, really. So there are a lot of cool things that we can do. We're not there yet with a lot of them. And even the things that we can open up, they're not going to add up to what we already get in revenue. And we need more than that. We need about twice that to really run a good operation. Otherwise, you're just going to be, gerbils on a treadmill and just getting by. So the pending state legislation. So anyways, the conclusion is the revenues are insufficient for us. We need state and local help to remain either a pillar of democracy or at least supporting it. And, I don't believe in running up and down the halls screaming the sky is falling or wrapping everything in the flag, but I know what we do is important, and I think some people don't realize that. Several pieces of legislation are before the state legislature and have been. The first one on your list is what we call the streaming bill or the streaming surcharge bill, and this is to help fund us as the cable revenues decline. So the idea is that as cable revenues go down, streaming revenues will go up. And, we can take as much as 5% of the cable TV revenues of the cable carrier. So the state, this bill proposes to take 5% of streaming companies' entertainment streaming revenue in Massachusetts. 40% would go to operations like TCTV, 40% to the municipality, and the state takes 20%. By a portion by population, which means we get 0.11%, which translates into about 11 to 15,000. And I can only extrapolate very rough numbers from national numbers and kind of guess at it. But, you know, both my kids majored in math, and I go to them, I say, you know what? We've lost about that much in the last 3 or 4 years. So what does that make sense? And they say, yeah, if it probably means the numbers are about right. So I hope we can get a lot more. But again, the idea is that as the cable revenues decline, streaming goes up. And, you know, maybe we'll end up getting much more from the streaming revenues. That would be wonderful. But
Yes.
I think you need to get the bill passed, and we need to look at 2 years of, you know, revenues from it to this, to
Make a
really determine if this is worth it. And I think that there are other things that we can do as well. So the letter that Noel has is really asking, I can't remember the name of the committee. It's the Joint Committee on Advanced Information Technology, the Internet, and Cybersecurity. So as you can imagine, little peg operations, you know, next to cybersecurity don't mean that much to them. But this bill has been before the state legislature for 3 years now. We keep rinsing and repeating this process over and over again, and it's got strong bipartisan support, and yet it won't move out of committee. So we're trying to get it out of committee, and we need to get it passed as soon as possible, because like I said, the way our subscribers are declining, if they keep declining at that rate, there's only 2 or 3 years left. And even though this is not unexpected, we expected this back in 2015.
Yes.
I'm actually surprised it's taken this long, but it starts looking like there are inflection points coming up, right? Comcast can't keep losing customers in cable TV and make the same revenue. And then we get the same revenue. So we'd like to see that get passed, hopefully before the session ends next June, a year from now. And then we can look at numbers over a couple of years and see if this is worthwhile. And also there's an issue of the cable subscribers paying all of our bills while everyone else gets to watch YouTube for free. And that's an equity issue.
Yeah.
So just like the issue we had with the school amendment thing, and we wanted to, hey, this is a fairness issue for Templeton. This is a fairness issue for the cable subscribers. It's my job to stick up for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would like to see that evened out somehow. So that's the streaming surcharge bill, and I would ask you to support a letter to that, and I will ask the selectmen, I hope on June 14th, the same, and I think as Noel and I discussed, maybe it might be more powerful coming from both bodies.
Okay.
And the other bills, there are actually 7 bills or more circulating through the State House that would make remote meeting participation like we do with hybrid meetings, either optional or mandatory. Not necessarily the hybrid portion, but to offer remote, not just participation for boards, but remote access for the public. Right? We don't know if what we do right now would satisfy that. And all of the bills really, even the ones that have had hearings and are most likely to be passed, you know, I can't get behind it because it says ultimately the Attorney General decides what is fair and alternative access.
Right.
The way it was written last year when they tacked it onto the budget the last minute by surprise was you could call in for telephone. So the meetings that TCTV doesn't televise, and there are about 10 of them or 10 bodies, maybe they could call in. But I can't support anything where it says, oh, we'll just let the Attorney General decide later. I need to know how to plan.
Right.
I can't do any long-term planning if the state's going to hold us up on this. Right?
Makes sense.
So that's known in our circles as the quote unquote unfunded mandate. And even though it's a mandate or an option that they want to give municipalities, who's going to get the call, right? It's already happened. Chairman of Board of Selectmen gets something. The first person he questions is me. What are we going to do about it? We have a plan to possibly do hybrid meetings or loan out the meeting owl devices to others that we don't do, to others we don't televise, and have them do it themselves. I don't know if that will work, right? I'm hoping telephone access would be enough if we have to provide remote participation. And I want to be clear about something to the public as well. I'm not against televising all the meetings. It's just impractical for us. We would go broke doing it. We don't exist if we have to do that.
And what meetings do you actually focus on right now, televising?
It's mostly the meetings that, the bigger, I don't know, I'm struggling how to say this. The ones that set townwide policy, and the ones we don't do tend to be the ones that are assisting departments like recreation, cemetery, council on aging. I think televising them all is an ideal, but it's not practical for us. And if this were to become a mandate, it could kill us without robust funding on the state level.
Right.
Because we just can't put that much effort into it. We have to put effort into other things to grow so that we can be financially self-sustainable. And this is no easy task. There's a reason newspapers aren't doing it, right? It's hard to do it. And there are other organizations, and an organization 400 media members strong who are trying to find ways to do this.
Right.
And we have a great, I think, we're set up really well to do it. I think better than most towns with what we do hybrid, with what we're doing on already reporting on the meetings and everything else. And I think we're providing a good service to the community and information. Not everybody even knows about us. And I think once they do, we have strong support from the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this can be a real asset for Templeton down the line, because other communities don't have this. And yet we do, and we can grow it. So
My question, how are the other communities doing it though, Steve, as far as televising or organizing their other smaller towns than us? How are they getting by with their?
it's all over the board.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, around here, Phillipston doesn't do much. Winchendon does a few things. Gardner, I think, is more in line with what we do and how many meetings we do, but they don't do much more than that.
Like Orange or Palmer, or you go further west.
AOTV and Athol and Orange do a wonderful job, but I don't really know how many meetings they cover, and I don't think they cover it with the kind of journalistic bent that we're doing it now. I've been in touch with Westford, and the lady who runs Westford CAT, Community Access TV, and I didn't know this. They've had a journalist on staff since 2014. And this person will write a planning board article that you'd read formerly in the Gardner News,
Oh, wow.
We don't do that. We just write Facebook briefs and kind of bullet points. This is what the advisory committee covered, and kind of headlines, kind of like a headline news thing. And
All the
hey,
good stuff, I hope.
yeah, watch. I can't ignore everything. But, and the idea is watch the meeting. Right, and find out more about what happened. And I think that's a good service. That's the way we prefer to do it here. And, every community will have to find its own way. But
Understood.
I know the woman from Westford put out a feeler on the forum that we're on and said, hey, does anybody else have a journalist on staff? And I said, I'm actually a journalist. And so we haven't found many that do that. And I think some of these operations are really going to be lost. Some of them are, their whole business plan is Massachusetts, please pass the streaming surcharge bill to save us. Or they're running in, they may be 501c3 nonprofits, and they're running into the arms of the town saying, hey, we helped you during COVID, help us out now. And, I'm not sure that that's the best direction for them either. So it's varied, but again, I'd say, I think we've put Templeton in an excellent position to have this kind of community information, and it's going to be important.
Excellent.
Down the line. So the meeting, the remote meeting access bills, I can't get behind right now. We don't know enough about them. I certainly hope none of them pass with, let's let the Attorney General decide it. Hey, during COVID, I think Maura Healy, when she was Attorney General, I had no issues with some of the things that she put out with the remote meetings and everything, but there's a different Attorney General. We don't know what to expect from that.
Understood.
So some of the recommendations I would say is, there's a share of that streaming surcharge bill that goes to municipalities. Why not award that to TCTV? Or at least put it in a hybrid meeting account if we want to loan out meeting owls or something like that. And ensure we have a place in Scout Hall so we can properly conduct business.
Right.
We're going to need to do a membership program or something like that to give the cable subscribers better equity. And, you know, in a membership program, they would get free memberships and the non-cable TV subscribers would have to pay. We
Right.
need a place to do that. And, you know, I'm talking with Adam about using ARPA money to help defray costs there. I think, you know, the town leaders can help support us in seeking nonprofit partnerships. I'll be preparing RFPs soon,
When did you talk to Adam about that? About the ARPA money?
recently.
Okay, because they only have till 2024 to come up with a plan in order to spend it by 2026. So,
We're going to have a plan for him soon.
okay, fantastic.
And, you know, I'll let you go through some of the other things here, but I do think we need to really talk, and the select board as well, about the cable subscribers equity issue right now, because it's getting pretty severe, and the offset right now is more than $100,000 a year.
Gotcha.
So I hope you can support us with a letter to the committee considering the streaming surcharge bill and further on, and I'm willing to discuss this with anyone who has any questions at any time.
Is the language of this letter appropriate still?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve. I
You're welcome.
appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.
Have any questions for
Appreciate that.
Steve? Mr. Gasper?
No, I think you very ably explained it.
Thank you so much.
you.
Right, anything to deliberate on at this point?
I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter and ask the select board to write a letter using this language.
Okay, so you want to do a letter from the advisory committee?
And ask the select board to send the text of this letter as well.
Okay, and recommend to the select board that they do the same thing that we do.
Yes.
I have a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second? A second. Right. Any questions, comments? Mr. Ben in the back of the room, how are you? It's good to see you. Excellent. You snuck in on me, it scared me. You scared me for a second. You look a lot, you're stress free.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Motion. So I have a motion second, no other discussion. Let's take a roll call vote. Mike? Yes. No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. You have this in digits? This letter? From the computer? Can you send it to me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Thank you. Yep, and we'll make sure that we'll get that to the select board as well. We already went over just so I know you came in late, we came over we went over the emergency transfer thing. Thank you for your input, I appreciate that.
Apparently the committee doesn't read what they recommend, but others for another day.
Right. Gotcha. We postponed that till either June 14th or another date that's available for the select board to meet with us in order to get that accomplished. Thank you. Make sure it's clear that day.
I'm a busy man.
I know you are. I know you are. All right, going on to the action item C, the financial management policy, the requested change. Did anybody get a chance to look at that?
Just strike out.
Yes. There was the one strikeouts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is my understanding that this is because a few years earlier than planned, we met the percentages outlined.
Yes, yeah, basically what happened is when the management policies came into effect back in 2017, there was a 10-year projection for funds in the stabilization accounts, which was $1.5 million. So we projected within 10 years that they would have, based on the percentages that were put forward in the financial management policy, that they would have at least 1.5 million in 10 years. Well, we have 1.6 million in 6 years. So we came up early of the 10 years, by 4 years. So, so that's why the policy is now shifting a little bit, maintaining what we have in there, sustaining what we have in there, and then pushing, just tweaking the percentages a little bit, such as, instead of 60%, there'll be 67.5 reserved for working capital or other town needs. So it's 7.5% more, meaning like, so the 10% will transfer to capital stabilization fund, 10% still transfers to infrastructure stabilization fund, 7.5% transfers to the general stabilization fund, and 5% transfer to OPEB reserve fund. So the whole point of that was we met the financial goal aspect of the financial management policy that were put back in place back in 2017. It's kind of like what Worcester State Retirement is doing to us. We pay all this extra money, even though they gain 35% annually on the money that we give them, but they don't want to give us any money back or reduce our contribution in any way, even though they're making 35% more dollars than we make. So basically, this will give the reserve for working capital and other town needs, 7.5% more of the free cash over the course of each year. That's all that does. Now, Jeff, did you have a question?
I do.
Yeah, I figured you would.
Just for the committee.
Yeah.
Through the chair. Watching the history of free cash
Mhm.
since 17.
Yeah.
When we had it, and the policy, originally it was 50% reserve, now it was 60, now they want to go to 67. And seeing that there seems to be more and more free cash being used to supplement the budget.
Yeah.
I wonder if this committee has any reserves about or concerns about giving the administration more money to use towards the budget rather than addressing the budget itself and the spending and work within what you have for the budget rather than depending on free cash, which it's legal to do it, but it's, as been pointed out twice by the DOR in their financial reviews, it's not prudent, it's not smart. And 1.5 million, what's that, the percentage of our general, just our general fund budget, never mind the town budget, which would include the school. How much is that gonna cover? That's equivalent to like state aid.
Mhm.
So I just wonder, the committee has concerns about giving the administration more free cash to work with, which financial history in front of everybody online in the budget books and town meeting warrant is more and more money from free cash being used to supplement the operating budget of the town, which to me, either they're giving too much money out for particular things, or there is still a structural deficit within the town budget. And I think that number still hovers around $500,000.
Explain to me the structural deficit.
Spending more money than you're taking in from real estate taxes. If you look at the free cash sheets, it's the first year, I forget what year it was, 17 or 18. It was 300 and something thousand uncollected real estate tax deducted right off the top. Since then, it's pretty close to real estate taxes receivable and up 2.5 increase. They're pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So the town is putting on paper, again, which is legal, the state says you can do that, but it's nuts to me, but
What, the 98% collection rate
you
versus?
know, you're not gonna collect,
Yeah.
because we have financial history that shows that.
You're talking about, just so the people are aware, you're talking about, we forecast 100% collection rates versus when we only collect 98% of collection rates. So we start talking about,
Well, I'm just talking about, that can be part of it, but when we put on paper, we can spend, we have to spend 100% of real estate taxes. But we know we're not gonna collect 100%.
you're absolutely correct.
And how is that being made up? By free cash.
Mhm.
Snow and ice, again, it's not an emergency and it's not unforeseen.
Nope.
And you, I believe, you get the email, the Department of Revenue.
I did.
Okay, then it's not only is it. You can do it. You can put 300,000 if you want to go back to 290, you can do that. It's not smart or prudent. And I don't think anybody was pushing to do that. But again, each year, we are spending more and more free cash to cover snow and ice expense. That's not an emergency or unforeseen to me. That's reoccurring expense.
I understand.
And they're saying, well, we don't have the money to put there. That's a structural deficit.
I see what you're saying.
It's,
Our revenue.
I can dig up the email from previous town accountant and a consultant from I won't say the name because I'll get it wrong, but that was determined back in 2012 or 13 about it's just a built-in structural deficit, always using free cash for a number of years to support the budget. And we got off that for a couple of years. I was pretty tight about that, but then it just started.
Well, from 16 on.
Last, I think his last year here, or maybe the last 2 years, they were really using a little bit, but now it's growing. And when I say structural deficit, that's where my viewpoint, I get that from.
I'm gonna,
ask a question.
go ahead.
It looks like last year we spent, again, this is approximate, but somewhere over $400,000 in free cash for capital equipment, like fire trucks or DPW trucks. And in your opinion, is that not the best practice?
No, not buying, like paying cash for a vehicle, that's a smart thing in my opinion, like, what has been done with the police department, buy a new cruiser each year, and his budget shows that the maintenance costs have gone down. This year, it got kicked to the curb because, we don't have any money to cover it. So
Well, that's gonna be picked up at the.
You're sacrificing next year's free cash to supplement this year, just like when you transferred $60-something thousand from various accounts, DPW one of them, at town meeting to cover snow and ice,
Right.
and now, we need a reserve fund transfer to DPW.
Yeah.
That's buying something, a truck, cash for free cash, and you pay it right off and you don't borrow no future debt, that's a good move. But I'm talking about legal costs, just general operating expenses using free cash to cover, and it's increasing.
He's
And
right.
it's all online on town meeting records.
Do you know why or how that happened?
What's that?
Do you know how that happened or why that happened?
It's budgeting, it's, I mean.
Yeah, you reach into the jar one time, you pull out $5.
Well,
Next time you reach in, you're pulling out
And
15, then you
give it
pull
up.
out 20.
I can tell you exactly what happened. I can tell you exactly what happened and why we are where we are today. Why we are. It's very simple. Obviously, the town's needs are what's important. The services that we provide are which are important. The town wanted and voted on, a full-time fire department. Did it not? Sure did. Not once, but twice. And which again, I'm supported. I'm supporting it even now. I'm still supporting what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to, pick up on or bully anybody. I'm not trying to do anything or pick on anybody. But we would typically spend, when I first took office, about $250,000 of taxation dollars on the fire department, on average annually, about $250,000, right? Remember? And then about $250,000 was the ambulance receipts receivable, so they would have a budget of about $500,000. That's what the fire department would work. Now we're at about $800,000 of taxation dollars. And then there are about $500,000 of ambulance receipts receivable. So when you want to look where dollars go, 9 times out of 10, it's people. It's not the stuff. It's not the paper clips, the envelopes, the stamps. It's none of that. It's the people, because each person, if you indicate each person is $100,000, that's salary with benefits.
Benefits are.
That's correct.
30, probably pushing 30.
That's right. So you look at, say, $100,000.
40%.
That's correct. So you look at $100,000 per person and you have, say, 100 people. How much money do you need to spend? Right. And this town, we
10
have
million.
about 50 full-time employees. Say we have 50 full-time employees. So out of those 50 full-time employees, just say, at $100,000 apiece. You know, that's where the money is in the people. So if you want to reduce, or if I should recommendations from us to reduce, because we look at all of this stuff. You know, insurance, we looked at, you know, under every rock we can to find new growth, new revenue and stuff like that. The town needs the stuff to grow, right? It needs equipment, it needs things to fix, it needs things to get better, to hopefully better service everybody. Our infrastructure needs improvement, our road infrastructure needs improvement, our sub infrastructure needs improvement, our capital infrastructure needs improvement. Everywhere you look, something needs something, right? So how do we get there? By what? Reducing the budget by like, okay, 98% collection rate. That's about $500,000. Just say. Reduce $500,000. What is that? That's 5 full-time staff. So you would lose at least 2 police officers, 2 firefighters, and someone in the DPW. That's reality. That's not me, John, making stuff up. Where else can you reduce that kind of number? Say $500,000, reduce it in a town this small. Where would you get it from? It's not paper clips. It's not envelopes. It's people.
Actually, I will counter that.
Please. I love it.
Back in 2012.
Yeah.
We were looking for a town coordinator.
Yep.
We had a gentleman come in, interview, and one of his things was his previous town, he closed a $2.5 million budget deficit.
Mhm.
In a year and a half. He was asked how he did that. One way that he did it was he consolidated purchasing, because he walked around all the offices and saw, you know, boxes of pencils here, pens, this, and it all adds up. And again, this is in a financial review of the town, twice, 09 and 21. Recommendation by the DOR, centralized purchasing,
Mhm.
to buy in bulk and save money. Another perfect example, I think you were on board of selectmen at the time. We went out to bid for a basin cleaning.
Yep.
It was $13,000. I used to see like 3 trucks in town. And not only would they clean the basins, but then they are responsible for that portion of the report for our wetland CPA plan,
Right.
you know.
I do.
can't name escapes.
I know what you're talking about.
But that was $13,000 a year. So then the DPW said, well, I want to buy a truck and do it in-house. Now you bought a truck. Now you have that.
We bought
guy,
that, we bought it used.
One truck,
Right,
bought a used one still.
right.
You gotta maintain it.
You sure do.
That costs more than $13,000 a year. And now the town is responsible for filling out that report for the EPA.
Right.
Instead of a contract.
Right.
And that, using that contractor to do that service goes along with the intent of Prop 2.5, which is to become more transparent, more
Gotcha.
efficient, cost effective, do business differently,
Right.
you know? And it's what it's all about.
No, you
It's
and I have seen,
political will to do things differently.
you and I have
If you
seen
wanna
eye to
build the
eye.
Government bigger, you're gonna spend more money. But there are ways to do things, to save the dollars. So you can have the people to do some of the services that you really can't contract out.
What I would probably, I mean, obviously, I'll put some numbers together just to, because I'm gonna take your idea, because I remember that whole, you know, local purchasing thing that even when I was in office that we talked about, kicked around the can a little bit. But it didn't look like any large number. I mean, it looked, you know, 40, 50, $60,000. I know we talk numbers like that, like it's nothing, but I know it's big. But I'm just saying, it's not as big as the $500,000 that basically, and again, if someone said, you said 500,000, me personally, I think it's $1 million. That's where I am. But how do we get to that point? And saying, okay, let's look at the budget and let's say, let's make an analysis of like snow and ice and say, okay, well, you know, we should be at 225, 230,000 a year in snow and ice. That's what we should be. We should sustain that. That's our sustainability plan. But how do you get there and grow there with the level? Well, I'm not even gonna use that word anymore because that's like a stupid word. The balanced budget that we have in town right now. So the budget is balanced right now based on everything that we have in town right now. It's balanced. Is it gonna be balanced tomorrow? I don't know, because something could come up. Money can be moved. Things can happen. It's balanced on paper. It's like a training schedule. You know that.
It's not balanced. Everybody knows it.
Well, it's balanced to the point where it's on paper and it's balanced where even the auditors say, well, it's balanced. At the end of the day, when we get audited, yeah, it's balanced and things are paid. Money had to be moved to offset the difference of different departments. And that's gonna happen, snow and ice specifically with that. Movements of like emergency funds from us to, for some culvert, that's what the money's needed for now, some unforeseen culvert issue that's happening. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, well, let's save all this money. I'm like, okay, I mean, we've all worked in government before. So, I mean, it's not like, you know, my government experience with government financial stuff is different from yours or from yours, but, and I'm not saying spend every nickel and dime. I'm not saying that. If I was on active duty, I would, because if you didn't, you wouldn't get the same amount of money next year. You would get less. But in town government, you have to save and money accordingly in order to maintain the services and provide the assistance that is needed in the community. And how do you do that when you're like being pushed down all the time to try, let's find a way, let's find a way, let's find a way. And I want to find every way possible because I live here. My kids live here. My kids go to school here. I have so much in stake here for my community.
So how does the town end up with? Let's see, not this past year, fiscal 22 free cash off the top of my head. The previous year, it was 1.9 million.
Yep.
Gross. If we don't have the money to put the 250,000 for snow and ice, how did we end up with $1.9 million left over from the previous budget? And I know not all of it is left over from expenses. And I don't believe we have a sheet that tracks that separately.
If I
I
may,
mean, you have the BBA, but I mean, you have a sheet, free cash, a simple spreadsheet where each department, this is left over total for the year. And
Where does the gross
and
number
this
come?
we don't have a gross number.
This much came from
I see what you're saying.
unexpected revenue.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because I was going over the budget versus actual for the end of April. So it's a month old. But I was gonna ask Adam if he was here, and I'm still gonna ask about it, because when you look at the unexpended dollars, it's astonishing. It
Can you see the
really is,
number?
it really is astonishing, the unexpended dollars this late in the fiscal year. I bet, I was going through this list.
Did you see it?
Yeah, we're 60 days.
I know.
We're 60 days to the end of the fiscal.
Right, and there has to be close to $2 million of unexpended monies in this list.
I'm sure you've seen it.
And some of it dates from 2021, 2022,
Yeah.
You know.
There's different accounts. There's accounts out there that like are getting gray like I am.
Add up the leftover expenses. Money that was appropriated to be expended. Out of I'd say 1.9, I believe that was fiscal 21. We ended up with 1.1 million net free cash for fiscal 22.
I think it's gonna be higher this year. I mean, I'm just
Well,
I
kind of
think what
spitballing
Jeff's
that,
asking
but
is, when we get our free cash, how much of that comes from unexpended town funds?
From
And
the
how
previous year.
a
And how
lot of
much
it.
is the other? What's
A
the?
lot of
breakdown?
it.
that's.
Where's the difference?
It's a simple
Because-
breakdown.
And we don't have
So
the
you don't
breakdown,
see
we
what-
don't have the breakdown.
We don't know what we're not spending.
Sit there with the end of the year BBA, might see in August.
Which
and-
doesn't mean, I can't
That's too
see.
late,
It's
that's
too
too
late.
late, that's too
I
late.
mean,
Yeah.
But the tracking,
Right.
so in 3 years from now, we can go back and.
We're-
look.
In my mind, it should be tracked month by month.
John, we're falling into a horrible
We agree with
trap
that.
Yeah,
of relying on free cash
no, I agree.
to balance our over expenditures.
I agree. I'm not gonna disagree with you.
There's nothing in there, there's nothing in to say that when you overspend, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry, I'll just go get free cash.
No, see,
We have plenty of it.
and
So
that's,
there's no fiscal responsibility to stay within your budget.
that's something else that needs to be thought about too, where if you have a manager that's overspending out of their budget, then something, some HR thing has to happen. Because, in my world, if you did that, you'd be fired.
You're overspending, you're not submitting a true budget.
Right, you're not doing your job.
You're not submitting a true budget if you're overspending every year after year after year.
It was asked for 52,500 and health insurance.
Yes,
So at the end of the year, that better be close to zero.
it better be zero.
They have 50 grand
Yeah,
in May.
right. Right. No, you're right. Okay.
So what do you suggest? that we
As
should,
a citizen,
as a citizen, what do you
as
suggest?
the new citizen.
That we recommend, I mean, we're a recommending body, so what should we be recommending to
I
the
think
select board?
needs to take a look at how we provide services and how we accomplish a mission. To me, I seriously look at the money we spend on mowing grass. The trailers, the lawnmowers, all the associated equipment, the maintenance versus can you have somebody do that
Contracted.
for a contract, which you pay no benefits for? Walmart doesn't even cut their own grass. They don't plow their own snow. They hire that all out. They're not, so it saves insurance, buying all that equipment, having the employees do it. And that stuff sits, that lawnmower sits for 6 months out of the year. Same thing with the street sweeper, same thing with the mason truck. That's like buying a car, driving it in the summer and you park it in your
When you
garage.
when you contract services, you, like Jeff said, you take out your health insurance, you take out your benefits package, you take out your maintenance
Mhm.
costs. You take out replacement of equipment. That's all you do is pay for the service.
If we
The
look
provider
at-
worries about all that other stuff.
I just, how much does it cost the town to clean the basins versus the 13,000 they were doing and had 3 trucks in town instead of 1? You can go down and see the town truck on Baldwinville Road for a week. Basins cleaning just on Baldwinville Road.
Right.
I mean. It's.
Work smarter, not harder.
And you shouldn't see it that much because we're not using sand anymore.
I don't know why they decided to do away with the contract and go in that direction, but. I know you do pay, sometimes you can pay a little bit more upfront for the service, but. You don't have those employees. Take the infield groomer, for instance.
Oh, here we go.
Some people, but if you look in the fiscal 19 budget book, Alan Mayo did a write-up. That infield groomer versus the way they were doing it, hand raking, even the lawnmower with the rake now. Which, I don't know, but I know Alan did the write-up and he figured out. It was in the vicinity of 900 man hours, we're gonna free up. By buying the infield groomer. To do. The work that had been being done,
By hand,
raking by hand.
right?
That's 900 man hours. Available to do other tasks.
Okay.
You know, and. Then there are other things the town can do. The grant writer is one thing, but.
Yep.
I don't know what you're gonna get for 42,000.
It's up to 55,000, I believe, the salary base.
Yeah, 60, what are you gonna get?
I mean, yeah, we had no, I understand. I mean, obviously, in some areas and some,
That's a 6-figure job. If you wanna get someone that's.
I'm not gonna,
It's gonna pay off.
I'm not gonna disagree with you either.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that.
I'm not gonna argue
It's
with
a
you. I mean,
job.
I can tell you there's other places that have full-time grant writers and they're, they're expensive, 110,000, say, just for, for a salary. I mean, but yeah, I mean, that's,
Boy, if we could possibly. Share a grant writer, or something, but. Again, there's. And it takes work and it takes effort, and it takes the will to do it.
You gotta spend some to get some.
There's ways to do it, run the town differently financially. And provide the basic stuff that people want. And get some of the things that we really need. We're paving over roads because. And we're not doing. The drainage. Because. Lack of funds, but what does that do with the money you invested in paving? The road's gonna last. It's got a shorter lifespan because the water's gonna be getting under the pavement,
oh, I got you.
because your drainage is. The road I live on, half of it was. Crushed and redid completely, new base material put down and and there's no steel on that end of the road, there's no drainage. So the other half of the road where there is drainage. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the old style, the name of the style escapes me, but basically they're on the side of the road. It's a cement cover. Or chunks, pieces of cement, they make 3 together to cover, but basically it's a cement cover and the water just runs down the road. goes into the dirt and makes its way in there. When they paved that other half of the road, all they did was they paved over the existing pavement because short on money. And they wanted, the DPW wanted to pave the whole road with a little bit of money in the end. They did not address the drainage issue. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basins with steel grates that are on the curb
Mhm.
where they should be. But the other drainage is not addressed. No money, but again. When you don't put in basins, and the water, doesn't go anywhere. It just goes outside the road, it's starting to crack, the pavement up there is cracking already.
I know we're putting Band-Aids out there, no, which I get. I mean, we're trying to, I think his overall,
But that's where, tightening your belt, doing things differently, to free up some money. To do these basic things, because the roads, everybody rides on the roads, the police, the ambulance, the fire, and all the residents.
you were here when we did the road study. It was $1.6 million to do our roads annually, and I think on average we put in what?
It's 2.6 million.
Or 2.6 million now,
That's
yes,
just what it is.
Yeah.
today.
2.6 million now. I mean,
I
so
did that calculation.
we're getting what, $500,000 out there per year annually for the
It
town?
hasn't changed for 11 years.
Nope.
Where it's happened
We're not
in
Spencer. I mean, Spencer did a great thing many years ago. What they did a huge override specifically for their road infrastructure. And it passed. It was like the first override that ever passed in
Well, there's
Spencer.
and I had spoke to Carter about it one time, there is a thing, it's called a special override.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can do it for roads.
That's it.
And
Yeah, Lunenburg did it.
you have to trust Board of Selectmen, but it's an override, it stays in place for at least 3 years, but after that. You can skip a year, we're not gonna, like, there's not gonna be no overrides, so that money will
Right.
go back to your taxes, or you can do away with it. It's one of the, I think it's the only override that.
It is
It's
the only.
It's like a flexible override.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the selectmen can't have a say in skipping it or increasing the amount of money that they will use from the override. Town meeting, approves the override and raise this much money.
Well, we have to
You're
see
gonna-
where,
yeah, you're gonna
right.
use this much. And because it's in the wording of the article.
Right. It depends on levy limit too. We have to make sure we maintain within the levy limit.
I actually think you could do it
It
for,
goes above that levy,
Mhm.
but you can get rid of it at any time, unlike a regular override that.
It just happened one
goes
time,
for
it's done.
Specific purpose
Right.
in 1 year, and then after that, it just gets thrown into the pile.
Right. But you know as well as I do, any override that happened this time that I'm aware of. If there was one, there was a few. We always went back to where the services was that needed it. I think like the school or the fire department, for instance.
Well, can't say that really, because,
They're still getting the money.
it-
The budget didn't go down.
No, you increase your levy limit, but it doesn't go specifically to the fire department every year. It just gets put into the pile, it's on the table, and gets divvied up. You can't track the money and tell me, it's going.
No, I mean, you
But
can't.
you increase the amount of money you have to spend, but expenses are going up higher than.
I understand.
Again, there's some communities that actually plan on having a small override every few years. And then they say like, in 10 years, we're gonna have $1 million one, for example. But in 5 years, we're gonna have like a $300,000. They actually plan this.
Right. Well, you know as well as I do. I mean, this goes back to, 08, 09, 10, 11. Where how the budgets were made, developed, and money was moved around to offset different other budgets to keep the tax rate low. I mean, this is the only, we would have the lowest tax rate out of like in the top 10 communities in the state. At one point, remember, we were like number 8 or something, number 9. And I'm like, how is this possible? And I'm looking at history. I'm like, we're borrowing money from different departments. How is this possible? And next, and it keeps, I never seen a tax rate go down like that. And I'm like, this is crazy. So all those years that the tax rate should have went up a little bit incrementally, either stayed flat or they went down a little bit. So now years go by because that didn't happen. We're at today based on.
pay the price
That's
for
right.
that.
which we do. I mean, again, it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's
And
fault.
We'd actually be worse off, except back when, and I believe the guys that did this are all gone now. But at the preface of, 2.5 was coming in.
Yeah.
So it's gonna come into effect. People in town went to Boston and talked with the DOR, and they got $1 million approval, we get $1 million increase taxes by $1 million for no reason, just because they didn't want to get really behind the 8 ball with
Right.
2.5. They foresaw stuff and they went down and they got it approved. I don't have all the details, but buddy Bumpsy down at the site talk with him all the time. He was one of the guys that went. He told me about that one time. I said, like, that's forethought right there. But
I actually met Barbara Anderson, who created Prop 2.5. And one of the things that she also tried to create was a 3% cap on the state legislature with the excess money to be returned to the cities and towns.
That doesn't happen.
But think about if that happened, you know, you instead of having like a top-down government, you'd have a bottom-up government, and you wouldn't have.
can't have that.
No.
I mean, they're also gonna do
Her
100.
idea was a very good idea, and she died way too soon, but I thought it was a very good idea.
They're also gonna fund 100% of transportation for regional school districts too. That didn't happen either.
Say the idea of looking into what services that we do can be outsourced. It's a great idea, but it can't be done within the town. It would have to be done by an outside source, because no one's gonna step up and say, hey, you gotta count my department. That would never happen. It would have to be outsourced. To do a study outsourced to say, okay, these are the areas where you can reduce spending by outsourcing.
Mhm.
But we would, I would never cut off my own arm.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that on for the next agenda item.
But I bet we could save a ton. Absolutely.
Okay, let's go back to the policy. Did you all get a chance to look at the policy and why it was?
I
Okay,
have one question about it.
Yep.
Can we maintain our goal in general stabilization by reducing it by 7.5% a year? The amount of money going to it.
as long as it's not touched, yes, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, because there's money still going there. There's still a significant amount of money going. You're looking at 10% for capital and 10% for infrastructure, 7.5% to general stabilization and 5% for transfers to the OPEB. So yeah, the only issue is we're taking 7.5% from
General
from general stabilization and bump into the working capital because of
Using
the
it to balance the budget.
to infrastructure. It's not so much to balance the budget. That's just for capital stuff like vehicles and stuff like that, to use some of that monies for that stuff. Because if we don't do that, we won't be following the policy, and some of these vehicles, the cost expenditure of these vehicles are too much money. And like there's other folks out there in the TV world that watch these videos, and they're like, oh, you're not following the policy. And they're absolutely 100% right, because we're I'm not gonna call myself a name, but where we're looking at the policy, like, well, we have to follow this. So if we're not following this, then why is it on paper? So this is only not worth what we have. So my objective would be, I mean, I agree with it because I want, that's just my perspective, is because I want, I agree with Jeff too as well. And I think we need to look at other means in order to save. I mean, you remember back in the day, you brought up the whole dispatch, regionalization with dispatch. I mean, that was like 13 employees or 8 employees, whatever it was. And that was huge. But that didn't go as far as this room, because, it's like you said, nobody wants to lose anything that they already have. I mean, so having an outside organization come in and research this, and say, okay, you can look at these avenues here in order to save money, such as, regionalize all your goods and services, so you can actually, let's save money here. How much money is that going to save? We have, 100 acres of lawn to cut. Who cuts it? If we have a contract lawn company does it, we have to pay X. That means we can reduce it by 3 people and 2 part-time people. I don't know. I mean, but again, that would have to be resourced out to make a determination of how much dollars that would save. But like Jeff said, I mean, yeah, I mean, deficit wise, you're looking about, a $500,000. I would say $1 million, but I wish we got 1 more million a year. That would be great. That would offset everything that we need. But again, then when that happens, what happens? We still need at least 2 more police officers because he's short. We still need 3 more firefighter paramedics full-time because they're short. So there's a $500,000 right there. Boom. Then obviously other people are going to need their resources increased as well, and so is pay. So, and then you have the union contracts with their increasing compensation. So it's like a never-ending, turtle battle. It's like, how do we get to where we need to be? I mean, to reduce spending, people like, well, we have to stay within our means. I'm like, well, what is our means? The 98% and reduce it by $500,000 and then reduce staff, because that's what it's all about. We can reduce services, or we can contract services and then reduce staff. So either way you look at the apple, with you either reducing staff, you're contracting services. It's like when you furlough people, but you still have to pay the unemployment. So you still have to pay. So it's not like it's free. You know what I mean? Like that one year we furloughed like the entire highway department for 6 months. Well, that was great. We still had to pay money because we had to pay for the unemployment, which still costs money. So it's like, when you want to feasibly look at all these things and say, well, first off, Templeton is solvent. Number one, I want to make sure that point is clear. We are solvent. We have money in our coffins. We have money in our coffers. We have money where it needs to be in stabilization, capital, and emergency. Our budget right now is balanced. Thanks to the snow and ice, and thanks to like free cash from this last year. But I mean, could it go awry? Of course it can. Could it be not balanced tomorrow? Yep. Could, something catastrophic happen, like the Main Street Bridge collapse? Of course. I mean, everything can, another water main break, I just want people to realize and know that, Templeton's not falling apart. This is, in 2016, this town was going into receivership. Was it not? That there was a signature away from the governor for receivership. One signature, that was it. So from 2016 to now, here we are in 23, going into the 24 budget. We have $1.6 million in stabilization. We have another $1 million in capital state. We have money in our coffers. I'm like, we've never had this. We have a bond rating that's like unheard of for a town of like us. Am I wrong?
It's a decent bond rating for this town and the long term.
Compared to what we had no bond rating in 2016, zero. We couldn't borrow $1 in 20. We couldn't borrow $1. They looked at us and said, get out. They look at us now, they're like, oh, we want to be like Templeton. How did Templeton get to where they are today? And people can say what they want to say, but that's the God's honest truth.
I'm gonna go up to Orange next Wednesday and vote for somebody.
I knew that was coming. I saw. Did you watch the video?
No.
Oh,
I read the
you're gonna watch the video. It's even better. It's even better. It's even better. Okay. All right. Let's go back to this here. This. My recommendation is to move forward, but obviously I'm going to take some more input from you folks here. So what do you guys want me to recommend here? We had a lot of good discussion.
I look at this, I look at these as targets.
That's what they were.
Targets, and we've met most of the targets.
Yes.
And we're adjusting the targets.
That's exactly what it was called. So if you look at the meetings back in 2017, that's what these percentages were. They were all targets based on projections and having 10-year projections as far as dollar savings. And we're doing extremely well. We are doing extremely well. Could it go bad tomorrow? Of course it can. Anything can go bad tomorrow. But for right now, today, we are doing extremely well, and we're not, it's going to take a while for, but that's just my thought. But also any input that anybody has, Jeff, you can email me anytime. Anybody out in TV world, if you guys have questions, comments, misconceptions, help me. Please help me. We're all trying to do the best we can. And I think we all got a 0% raise last year, didn't we? Did you get one too? That's right. I volunteer my time like the rest of us do, like we all do. Well, not you. You get paid very well.
Thank you.
Sorry, Steve.
I deserve it.
I know you do. But we do this because we want to do this and we want to make the town better.
My feeling on this
Mhm.
is that we should adopt this language.
Okay.
However, having said that, I think, Jeff brought up a concern that I have about unexpended funds, and we just don't have a month by month handle on what, unexpended funds are, or what may be turned back to the general fund.
Right.
And when you have maybe as much as 15 or even higher % of your whole budget either not expended or being turned back, that to me is a real problem.
Well, I don't really
I
need
mean, I
to see a
think
month
these-
to month. I don't need to see a month to month because obviously we have the income to actuals, sorry. But I would definitely love to see like an end of the year sheet that tallies like, okay, what did you spend? What was your remaining balance? And which is being turned back in to the pot. I want to see that number. Because that number is important. So if you got,
But you don't want to see that number in August. I mean, I think you should be seeing it right about this
no,
time of year.
you do, but again, that tells me like a good guy I am, I'd be like, okay, so you didn't spend $100,000. Guess what? Your budget's being reduced by 75% of what you turned back. So now it's reduced by $75,000. So what do you mean? Well, you turned back $100,000 because so obviously your budget went very well and you over budgeted. Great. I appreciate that. But now you're going to be reduced by 75% of that.
But I don't see that happening. I just see the money sitting there on the books.
Well, it has to be moved. It has to be spent or moved. I mean, you're talking about accounts from like, 2020 accounts or 2021 stuff, the stuff that's growing gray here. Yeah, they have to have a plan for those things. I mean, those things, he's talking about the money that was moved into certain accounts that were for certain projects that haven't been completed yet. That are earmarked to be spent, but have not been spent yet, but it's been like 4 years, 3 years.
And some of it's ARPA money, which I get, but there are a lot. I mean, I have a whole list.
Right.
And I would like to turn this into Adam and, I'd like him to explain.
Sure.
I think I have about 30 items.
Okay, can you send that?
Estimate of the year should be at about 80% expenditure.
And we're not.
80, 90%. Yeah.
83.
And we're not, there's a lot of money where it's at, 2%.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah,
Exactly,
I have
almost
that, I have that
84.
list right here.
Okay, I'll make sure.
You should be at about 84% expenditure.
Some communities actually have a bylaw. If money's it hasn't been spent in 3 years for the project, it rolls over to free cash, goes away.
Well, we don't have a bylaw like that though.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, there is. Oh, yes.
Some communities do have a bylaw like that.
I think you're right.
Well, it adds a sense of urgency to,
Because otherwise it's gonna sit there. I remember when, like in 2016, we had 26 bank accounts, I believe, 26. And I remember money being found, then money going away. Then money being found, then money going away. I'm like, it was bizarre. So we went down, I don't know where we're at now, but we went from 26 accounts to like 12. And, that was like the first order of business we had to do. We had to move some stuff around and close accounts that didn't have anything in it. It was like weird.
A lot of them were like from way back.
Yeah.
They would have. Like the dog license fees would go in this one, and this would go in there, and this go in here, and.
Yeah,
it seems to have
they-
been cleaned up.
They did bid,
It seems-
cleaned up. We had,
it seems to have been
our
cleaned up.
management report back in 2017 or 2016 was 36 pages.
Yeah.
Of things that were wrong. 36 pages. I think
No,
this
it's not.
current year, what do we get? 2 a page? Not even, it's not even wrong. Like suggestions, what was it? Like a couple things?
Like 2.5 days.
Yeah, it was nothing.
My account was locked 45 days prior to the end of the fiscal.
It sure was.
And if I wanted to spend, I had to explain what I was spending
That's right.
because they didn't want me to have to spend frivolously.
Right,
Oh, I have 42% of my budget left, 2 months to go. I'm gonna spend it all.
right.
And that's not good fiscal management.
No, I think you're right. All right, so does anybody else, we all agree to this or not agree? I mean, I think.
I would agree to this, but I would like to send.
Okay.
that list.
All right, can I entertain a motion to agree with the amendment number 4?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I have a comment.
sure, great. What's the comment?
Me too. Bob May,
Yes,
Are we at 8% in general stabilization? And that's what the policy says now after updating it from 5%. Part of suggestion when we hit 8% was to raise it to 12%.
Say that again. One more time,
Both of them or just the first one?
just the first one.
Are we at 8% in general stabilization?
Okay, 8%, okay.
Cause that's what B2A says in the next
Yep, it does.
Yeah.
Yep,
8. We can't.
we met our target, yes. That's the answer. We met our target. What
I
was
could
this?
say, and this is myself, I personally believe that the percentage should be, at least double that. I really am a big believer. in
And Carter made-
stabilization.
And the second one says, that's what the policy says now after updating it from 5%. Carter's suggestion when we hit 8% was to raise it to 12%.
And Carter sent that or Mr. May sent both?
Mr. May sent both.
Okay. And I believe he's right. Those were the targets that were that we set forth back in the day. Yep. Back in 2017, I believe it was. Unless something changed after I left. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't here, so I don't know if he set something. When did Carter leave?
5
2019?
years ago.
Okay, so I mean,
But I believe these are targets. I believe that if we met the targets, I accept that. But I also believe that we should review that.
Mhm.
And the select board should review that with an eye to increasing it.
Absolutely.
Again,
I mean,
I think Carter was right, and I think, the citizens right,
Mhm.
that it should be much higher.
it should be much higher. He's absolutely right.
But instead of lowering.
We're shifting it.
We're shifting it
shifting it.
because we're still at 10% for general stabilization. We're still at 10% for infrastructure stabilization. Should it be 12%? Yep. And
Oh, for
open,
general, we're dropping general to 7.5. Not
Right.
10.
right, but we're keeping the other,
We're going below the target of 8%.
that's the
point.
change.
That's the point. It
Right,
still stands in the general stabilization policy that it shall not be less than 8%. It's right there, right on the bottom of the page. Town shall target general stabilization fund balance of not less than 8%. And we are bringing it below 8%,
which page are we on? I said it was
Right here.
5%.
right at the bottom of the page. Policy B2A, general stabilization policy. The town shall set a target stabilization fund
Yeah,
balance
that's supposed to be,
of not less than 8%.
Doesn't make consistency.
is very much so, yep. I'm gonna table this till the next meeting,
That's just what I would think, Judge.
because Mr. May is 1%, right? Again,
You need a motion to table.
I entertain a motion to table this till our next business meeting, please.
So moved.
A motion a second. Have any other discussion? Excellent. Roll call vote, Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
No, and I vote yes as well. And Jeff, thank you for your input. Mr. May, thank you for your input. Really, it means a lot. It really does. Let's move on to the next item. Board and Committee Handbook that was presented that Mr. Bennett made. You get a chance to look at that? Again, this is just a look-see, and again, we're adding to it. So this was presented to the Board of Selectmen, which was a great handbook. It was a good job, Jeff. Good job.
I'm good at stealing stuff.
What's that?
I'm good at stealing stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Plagiarism, the greatest form of.
Why
flattery.
reinvent the wheel when you don't have to? I read this, I thought this was, I thought it was really great. I mean, I would,
Has there been changes to this since the one that Jeff put forward?
not that I'm aware of, not that I'm aware of.
Jeff, are you aware of any changes to this from the one you originally put forward?
I'd have to look at it.
I'm gonna, I just wanna, again, talk about it.
Compare the
If
two.
there's anything that we can,
Someone might say request for electronic copy.
you have electronic copy of this?
What's in front of you, so I can compare it with the original.
Okay.
I have not read this since the original.
You haven't read it?
so I don't know, the original, yes, this one,
This was the one I got from this one was sent to me.
but have there been changes since?
Well, I would hope not. They would have sent the changes to me, I would hope.
Okay.
I mean,
If it's the original, yes.
I'm getting it from the corner office over there. I would hope there's not changes, but, like, thanks. Glad you said, that's a true infantry guy right there. I'm
That's a
telling
true
you.
statement.
So my thing is I want
Strike through, so there's
take
no
a peek,
changes.
take a peek at this, go through it. As far as because again, I'm a big proponent is like, we recommend. The policymakers are the select board. We have recommendation, we want to give them the recommendations that they need to hopefully make it better. Input from like public, input from, everybody. Make those recommendations and hopefully they can make the policies to make it better for everybody. You want to table this as well? All right, let's table this until our next business meeting. Give everybody an opportunity to see it. I will double check and see if any corrections have been made, if there's a corrected copy out there as well.
There are no strike throughs, so
Yeah,
I'm
I-
gonna
I-
assume that this is the original document.
I'm assuming. So I have a motion to table this to our next business meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have motion, a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Mike?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So the board committee handbook will be tabled till next meeting. As that's being tabled, please, when you go home tonight, please take a peek at it, make sure you read it. And if you find things that can be improved or add tos, please put those together. So when we talk about them at the next meeting, we can bring those to light, okay?
I'll bring it on my cruise, so I have poolside reading.
All right, I don't even want to hear about it. You're killing me. Next thing is the snow and ice policy that's in effect right now. Did you guys get a chance to look at that?
It's not.
Hmm?
It wasn't in the packet.
Well, it's not really, it wasn't the snow and ice specifically, it was about the mailbox thing, mailbox policy.
Familiar with that.
Oh,
That was,
Yeah, it's DPW brought that up.
yeah,
It's a change to the snow plowing policy that's on
Yeah.
the DPW, so.
right.
They have a little paragraph about it and I was trying to add to it, give something, try to help out residents in the
Right.
event that, because it does happen, not a lot, but it does happen.
that was what you brought up at your last.
Yeah, when we were there, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Remember it well.
The only concern I had about that whole thing was where the money was gonna come from to pay. That was my only concern.
I can tell you where it should come from.
I don't think you're gonna have 8,000 mailboxes destroyed each year.
You're not talking.
No.
It sounds like 4 or 5 a year or
It's-
It should come out of the DPW general operating fund. He who does the damage should pay for the damage.
Is that what you suggested as well, or suspected? The general fund of the DPW?
Their budget come out of their budget. It's,
Do they have a fund?
if I get them, driving a contract bill for the state, then I gotta get out and fix it and buy the mail, whatever. So I'm real careful about.
So you have to pay for it? Like the driver? does?
Contract states that the vendor has to fix the mailbox. If I take somebody's mailbox down, driving a truck for a vendor,
Yeah,
for MassDOT, yeah, you gotta fix it.
Yep, it's in the Mass dot.
That's why you need to know the rules of post office and where the roadway is, and
Right.
if your mailbox is out there, then, hey, you got your mailbox on state property, that's.
great,
But I put in an effort not to,
understood.
I plow slow, like 5 miles an hour, I get tired, I rest. I make it my business, not the only place on the route that the pit that I plow out of is Route 2, every
Yeah.
other route has mailboxes. And and the ramps don't have mailboxes, but every other route has them, and that's my goal, not to hit a mailbox or anything else, but I watch mailboxes really carefully.
No, I remember when,
Hard.
this came forward, is the $55 a cap,
That was my intent.
to cap it at $55, because you could have a mailbox with a granite,
Oh, yeah. I
cut
know.
granite post, and it could be $1,000.
But
That's
Yeah.
my post.
like I said, my goal was to try to have something. in
Help the
place to
resident
try
by
to help the
Limit the
residents.
liability of the town.
I got you.
Yeah.
Cover the cost of the posts or.
55 covers what the post office minimal requirement is. 55 would probably cover that.
Yeah.
Not gonna cover your granite recessed concrete
No,
flamingo mailbox,
Well, that should be somebody's homeowner's policy.
of course.
Yeah, I know the ones where you take a package, they're $55, but again.
I got
The
you.
goal was to just,
Yeah.
to try to help the residents a little
you
bit.
get a chance of, did you read that?
Yeah, I read it, and I
Uh,
heard Bob,
Sure, any recommendations for the select board on this one?
I would recommend they adopt it.
Yeah,
As long as it says where the funds come from. It would have to have a statement as to where the payment would come up from. Because we don't want to get to the end of the snow and ice season and say, hey, we need $5,000 out of free cash to pay for mailboxes. We don't want that.
Right,
It would have to direct where the money would come from.
okay. So recommendation to the select board would be to adopt said policy with the caveats of recommendation of where dollars will be reimbursed from
Yes.
A specific account.
specific
A
account.
specific
Yeah.
account.
Okay. Okay, you're gonna make that into the motion?
Yes.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second,
Any other discussion? Is any other questions, comments? Okay, I have a motion, second, any other discussion? Mike?
yes.
No,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. I'll get that to the select board. Okay, budget versus actual for March. Which again,
Mr. Chair,
We
I would, I would share, the list of questions that I have. With you, Mike, and, directed an email to the town manager.
okay,
I think the items I have cover most of
March,
well-
for March and April, or just April.
April.
Okay, so as far as March goes, we can accept as presented for right now.
Yes.
So I can make a motion to accept it. The March PVA is accepted. A second,
Second.
I have a motion, second, have a discussion. I see none. Mike,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Now moving into the April BVA, you have comments?
Is
Is there a lot? Oh, yeah, so it's the same way I said, okay,
That's the list.
okay.
Yeah, that's the other items. It's just,
It's just these.
it's just.
Okay, I'm gonna need a
that
copy of this for
there.
the meeting minutes because I'm sure this has to this will have to be presented to this will have to go as part of the public record.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna read this a little bit. Is that okay with you?
yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so the BVA for April.
Yeah, I have the page, the line number, and, the question that I
Right,
have.
So I'm just gonna go through the questions real quick, which I'm sure other people are watching. So there's a couple here. Page 2, line 18, fire support, $42,000 remain to be unexpended. Page 3, line 12, building and grounds. Purchase and services, $21,549 remaining to be expended. Page 4, line 17. Emergency 2022 emergency management cert. $20,549. Page 4, line 18, 2022 Baldwin School caretaker. $6,056 remaining. Page 4, line 19, 2022 River Edge. $103 remaining. Page 4, line 23, police truck. 2,708 to be expended or returned to general fund. Why not expended when truck was purchased? Line 4, line 20, page 4, line 24, DPW MS4 compliance. 14,500 remaining to be expended. Page 4, line 27. 45 cents. Can you clean this up? Page 5, line 7, 2021 NRSD regional agreement. 2021, 9,395 unexpended money appropriated in 2021. Line 5, page 5, line 20, EMS ambulance receipts, 33,149 remaining. Page 5, line 29 through 31 at bottom, $17.37.
Yeah, it's cleanup.
Yeah, it's more cleanup there.
Also, I would note that I brought that up 6 months ago
Yes,
in a meeting.
you did.
See, page 10, no, I'm sorry, page 9, 18, line 18 and 20, police vest grant, 4,594 remaining. Page 10, lines 7 through 9, 68,359 remaining. Only 2.6 of this grant has been expended. Page 10, line 10 through 12, 111,244 remaining library grant. 1.5% grant was used. Page 10, line 13 through 15, 13,675 remaining cultural council grant. Only 30% of this grant has been expended. Page 12, line 4, opera. That 219,058 police staffing money, only 12% of this grant has been expended for the police officer. Page 12, line 22 through 24, 26,611 police station money. Why not expended? Only $52 spent in FY23. So that was the things that we saw here. This tallies what, almost how many million? About $1 million to it?
It's well over $1 million.
It was over $1 million. So it was well over $1 million just on that out.
And I'm sure there's legitimate reasons
Of
for
course.
many of
Yeah.
them, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of money.
And I'm sure there is. I mean, some of it's cleanup. But some of the 2022 stuff or the 2021, stuff that is, again, more cleanup stuff. But here we are going into the end of the year and there's still a significant amount of money that has not been utilized in the budgetary accounts.
And what I'll do is I will send both you and Mike emails, and then you can forward it to Adam
Okay, all right,
as the chair.
excellent. Just don't communicate within each other. If you can send me it, just send me it. Do not respond. I don't want any
No,
meeting law
no,
violations,
no,
okay?
no, it's just I'm just gonna send it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Or
And
I
I'll
can
make sure.
send it, or I can send it to you. I just want to make.
Yeah, you
sure
can send it to all of us, and then what I'll do is I'll send it to Adam, okay?
Yes.
So that will,
Try to, it just,
yes,
just part of housekeeping.
yes,
Yeah.
go ahead, send it.
Again, from Mr. May,
Mhm.
are we considering that 5% of the budget is supposed to held towards free cash within the budget? That's over $500,000 for fire overage within the budget.
Are we going back? Where was my sheet? Are we going back to the policy again? Mr. Mayor, are we going back to the policy?
That's the goal with the policy stated to generate free cash is like 5%
Right.
of the budget. And so
5% of the omnibus budget, right?
I think his point is we're going way beyond that.
Yeah, the 5% would be roughly $500,000.
Right.
And in that list is well over
I see what he's
$1
saying.
million.
Again, this is why we're tabling this until the next business meeting, so I get some more clarification on that. But thank you again for that, because that's written here as well. This is the 5%. Yes. Okay,
You have my notes sheet, Mr. Chair,
which ones?
the one I gave you, the list.
I gave it to you.
Read it up.
I gave it back. What, the notes?
No.
No, you kept it. No, I gave it back to you.
You're right, you did.
I did.
It's
Told you I did. Well, that was a Friday hand. Oh, my lord.
There was a sleight of
Yeah, you
hand.
did give it to you. And you just tucked it away so quickly.
I did.
You scare me. Okay, going into item. H now. And we'll get answers to your questions, or our questions.
Yeah.
Um. From,
Yeah, do you need a motion on April?
Yes,
Item G, April, Mr. Chair.
yes, I do.
we didn't.
Yes. I do, yes, I do need a motion for that. So we're gonna accept the BVA with the list of questions that need to be answered by the town administrator and or the accountants.
I would make a motion to that effect.
Excellent. I have a second.
Second,
I have motion second. Any other discussion concerning that? See none. Mike?
yes.
Noel?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Just email me that so I get those to Adam, so then Adam can get it to her perspective when he needs to get it to get those questions answered, okay?
Yes.
Okay, the state audit, I know we're doing. I think that's on the agenda for the select board on the 14th, I believe, too.
The meeting with Diana.
I believe,
I do have a few observations about that.
yep, go ahead.
On, I think it was, April 25th. This is a little over a month ago. There was an informal meeting with the state auditor, Diana DiZoglio. And I had requested that as a private citizen. And the meeting, it was a Zoom meeting, and in attendance was Tim Toth, who was chair of the select board at the time, John, myself, and Adam Lamontagne. And I had asked for the meeting because I was for two reasons, really. The office of the state auditor has really been the one constitutional office that has, over the last decade, taken a great deal of interest in small towns, and the present auditor is no exception. She is also trying to conduct for the first time in 100 years an audit of the state House of Representatives, and yeah, that's what the chair said. But she's trying to do it, and during this meeting, she did indicate to us that I thought it was a very positive meeting, and she did indicate that she was going to examine 3 issues with the possibility of generating a report, but there might not be a report for months or even more than a year down the road. But I think the meeting did pique her interest about, one of the items that we brought to her attention is the issue of the discrepancy between Chapter 70 school aid, which increased substantially for fiscal year 23. And yet local aid essentially remains stagnant. And, we pointed out to her that this is really a major problem with our budget. She's also going to look into the issue of Chapter 90 road funds, as that has been stagnant for the past 11 years. And she may also look into, or at least make a preliminary inquiry as to Templeton's contribution to the Worcester County Retirement Board. Why our contribution is going to go up 10% year by year when that fund has had tremendous returns. I would also like to enter into the record, if I can, an article. If I could, can I
Yes.
enter it into
Yeah.
the record? And I just do this, yeah, I think I am of the opinion, this is my personal opinion and not the board, but I think that the town of Templeton has been shorted in the past year by the House of Representatives and their flawed process by about $5 million. And I find that very interesting in light of the select board made a list for Senator Goby of the needs of the town. Mike Curry put that together. And when we add up the dollars, it's about $4.5 million. And so it's very close to what, in my opinion, the process of the legislature shorted the town. The article I'd like to put into the record is it appeared in Commonwealth magazine in December of 2018, and it's about a lobbyist. And basically, the article details in excruciating detail how the Massachusetts House really works. I think one of the basic flaws is that our little group with our little budget, we have to comply to the open meeting law. And if we don't, we can, the town can be fined, we can be fined individually, and it's not a small fine either. It's, we could be whacked with thousands of dollars in fines.
You know,
And yet the House of Representatives is exempt from the open meeting law. And they abuse, unlike any other legislature in the country, they really abuse and conduct practices that if we did that, we would be fined every time we met.
Right.
It really is, and it's a serious problem. This article, it's step by step. It takes you about 5 minutes to read it, and if you read it, and I'm making it available to all the taxpayers who want to read it, I think that you would be. I think you would be like I would be, really outraged at how the body works. It's the worst legislature in the whole country. As far as they're secretive, they're opaque, and we as a town pay for it because we need reform on things like prevailing wage and the like. And we really, the Templeton municipal budget loses out, we lost out about $5 million last year because of the process. The process is flawed. It's not Mr. Representative Zlotnick who's flawed or Senator Goby who's flawed. It's the process that's flawed. So, I just am going to enter that in the record without saying any more. I've said enough.
oh, great. I appreciate that. It's all well said. Thank you so much. I'll make sure that gets with the minutes for the meeting, so it'll be all uploaded in the system. So, all the folks on the TV and then want to take a peek at that, we'll have the ability to do so. Anything else on the state order? Anything? That was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was a good conversation.
She was fully in tune with everything that we were talking about as the advisory committee, which was great.
Yes, and she's probably going to investigate, perform audits and issue reports. And, the reports do have some weight. I think, in large part, our regional school funding increased in the past several years because of an audit report by her predecessor, Suzanne Bump, who was really a very good auditor. She reformed the office, and she really did a lot of good for Templeton.
Excellent. Okay. I discussed the process of pre-town meeting bylaw. I think that I don't know why that was on there. I forget.
The recommendations, the form of the recommendation.
No one was.
Think about that. The issue was whether the form of the recommendations.
Oh, to put it in writing, how our recommendation.
Oh,
Whether it
that's
should be
all
separate
right.
or within the
Yes.
booklet.
Be put on the town meeting.
No, the bylaw.
How
one of
we
the other
show up in the town meeting book.
Right. One of the issues that was out there was that a discussion came about was was how we did our pre-town meeting and how we made our votes at pre-town meeting. And the discussion was do we make our own booklet and have that submitted at town meeting as a standalone side by side with the select boards, guide as well, or do we do a joint guide? I looked at both avenues. I did look at doing it ourselves as an individual. I checked out the cost. It was $600 something for the 300+ copies that we would need to have made, which would have been the same as the select board. The only difference would be that the advisory committee's recommendation would be at the bottom. We voted and we took it upon ourselves to vote to make that determination to say, well, we'll add it to the one guide. That way our recommendation, along with the select board's recommendation, were level eye to eye. That way there wasn't two books that people had to fumble around with. It was all in one book and it was able to cost save, $650 some odd dollars of taxation dollars that they didn't need to have two books. And on top of that,
Most of them get thrown out.
right, and that was my other concern was we were gonna make 300 plus copies. We had just over 100 people, I think, show up at town meeting. 200 copies would have went in the trash, and I'm sure the other ones would have too. We were just, and the way the bylaw is written, it's really, for me personally, it's not as straightforward as I think it should be. If it's gonna be specific, then it should be specific. It's kind of like,
It's
well,
great.
it's great. There's a recommendation that we need to do, and where the recommendation goes has to go to the people at town meeting. How does it need to be presented? Do we need to do a book?
Doesn't say.
It doesn't say. All it says is our recommendations have to be met on town meeting floor in some type of format. So we we took it upon ourselves to say, okay, well, just so there's no ambiguity out there, we're fully, transparent as we possibly can be. We made the recommendation to put it on one guide with the select board have their recommendations and votes, and we are just under them with our recommendation and votes. And I thought that worked out well.
Makes it easier for the general public attending town meeting. You don't have to fumble between the two.
I-
It's right
I-
there in front of you,
right.
one page at a time, right there.
So my next question is gonna be down the road is do we need to look at the bylaw again? Which again, I hate doing this. It bothers me. Because we're just changing stuff to change stuff. It's like, but it's like, if it's not written,
You're
People
just
get upset,
just
though.
refining the process.
but people do legitimately get upset because, well, you should have your own book. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe we should have our own book. But is it really the best practice to spend $650 at Staples to have the same book as somebody else that has the same information, except it says advisory committee vote versus select board vote? I don't know. I thought we were doing what was in the best practice of the community by number one, saving tax dollars, and then still providing them the information that they needed in their hand based on the vote of the select board during pre-town meeting.
Serious duplication of effort.
It is definitely it is. I've never trained to that type of philosophy, but listen, I'm willing to do whatever the people want because that's what we're here for. We're here to serve at the pleasure of the people, and the community. So if they come up and say, John, I want my own book, I'm like, okay, then we'll make sure you get your own book. But just know that we're gonna throw like 200 away. And then the books that we give you, half of the ones we gave you end up in the trash on the way out. That's my concern. Jeff, you have a comment?
You recommended that bylaw 4-1.
I did. You're right.
Apparently, what did
Oh, I read it. I took it, it was very ambiguous as far as how it was, it didn't say specifically I needed to do a book. It just says I needed to present it to, I needed to have a presentation to the people during town meeting. And we voted to present it in the way that we did it. Is that wrong? It's all based on it's like laws. It's all based on the interpretation. Your interpretation of that is different than potentially mine. That's why it's ambiguous. That's why I'm saying, how do we fix that? Now, do we make it specific? Every single year that we go through this, or every single, chair of this committee comes up here and says, you know what, I want to do it differently because you know what, it says this, so I want to make my own book, or I don't want to make my own book, or I want to make a PowerPoint presentation. And I want to have my PowerPoint presentation on the screen next to the select board's PowerPoint presentation, because I can do that too. Because it doesn't say I can't, so I can do that. So where is the end road? That's where I'm at. So my suggestion at this point is to, I'm going to relook at it again. And I want you folks to relook at it again too. And I need, again, this is just discussion. I just need some type of input. And from you, Jeff, I love input, Mr. May, anybody else out there? Please send me input.
And the last time when I was chair.
You paid for it.
I did it at home.
You paid for it.
Yeah, 250 copies.
Yeah.
I think it cost me $650.
No, it was Staples. But again, I'm not,
It took me, I don't know.
no,
It
listen,
took me longer to type it.
nobody,
Just
listen,
don't
nobody,
read it.
we're not all like you. nor do us have, I mean, we're just not, we can't use you as an example because you're extraordinary. Because you went above and beyond and spent,
That was my job.
all right, I mean, you went above and beyond. And
I simply did my job according to the bylaw.
Okay.
That's all I did.
all right, well, you're extraordinary in my eyes. So just take a peek at that. And if you can look at
Well, if
anything,
you pigeonhole yourself to one particular format and down the road, you want to change it.
right,
Now we have to change the bylaw.
and that's
again.
why I don't want to do that. But if
You have to leave it, and it's not ambiguous, it's, you have to leave it open-ended, so whoever's the chair can make a determination on what format they want to use.
Right.
And not say, well, the next chairman may say, oh, I don't agree with that format, now you have to do a bylaw change.
Is,
And that part.
hold on one second, Jeff, hold on one second.
is it, within the bylaw to just have it electronically available?
No, don't put it.
And it's not even in that, no.
Cause I think, I think 10 years down the road, it's gonna be all electronic.
Right, they'll be on their tablets.
Yeah.
And
Go
that
ahead.
part, that part of the bylaw about advisory committee giving a written report. to the
Yes.
Town meeting. That's been on the books since the fifties.
Yes,
I mean, that was part of the bylaw that I kept when I did that bylaw. But
Right.
most of it came from other towns, again. They've already did it, Attorney General already approved it.
Yep.
It's already working.
but we did, but for all intents and purposes, we did do a written report. It was with the select boards, on their document, but we added our report to their document to make it one document to read versus having two separate documents. That's all I did. That's all we voted on.
Yeah.
And I think that met the premise of the by, as far as I'm concerned, I think it met the premise of the bylaw based on the fact that the way it was written, the way I interpreted and the way we voted.
I
That
felt at the time that it met the bylaw and saved some money.
Okay.
But I also, it's my personal opinion that down the road, it's probably gonna be, everybody's gonna bring a tablet.
Right.
And
It should be automated. Right, and electronically available, just like everything else, like the annual report. I know that was a thing, et cetera. These things need to stop being readily available, but we also need to understand and know that there's people out there in this community that still don't have computers.
Yep.
So we need to also make sure that those folks are aware that we do have paper copies and we still have the availability for you to get them as well. I mean, because again, that's only fair. Like, I mean, I
have a computer, but I want the book. But the book doesn't change.
Roger,
Online, somebody can go in there and change it. I have the book. But once it's printed, it doesn't change.
understood. All right,
Mm.
excellent.
Write notes on my computer. I
I
can
put
write notes in my book. but I
Listen,
can't-
the other one that found whiter on your screen.
I tried it.
You can't erase numbers with white on the screen, goofball. All right, so,
I don't trust
excellent.
anything digital.
thanks. All right, summer schedule, we already talked about it briefly, so again, June, July, and August will refrain, but again, we do have a potential date of June 14th with a joint meeting with the select board. I will get with Adam and I will make sure that something goes out through that office to you guys as far as when that meeting is going to take place, based on the vote that we had at the beginning of the meeting, okay? Anything else for the good of the group here?
I do,
Yes,
yeah, I do. I have a piece of old business and new business.
okay, go ahead.
The old business is, we have sent, 2 letters to the head of administration and finance about,
Yes.
asking what is the total number of dollars collected by the Commonwealth from Templeton, the town of Templeton, from all sources. And I want to ask you, as chair, if you received a response.
I have not received any. I'll double check the mailbox again today, but I have not received any. No. And we sent out not one, but 2 letters.
Yes.
All right, so let me,
I mean, I'm gonna talk about it with Representative Zlotnick when I meet with him, so.
that's
maybe-
next week, right?
Right, next Monday.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring that up. I just, wanna know what.
Yeah, I won't be able to meet you with, I won't be able to meet that.
That's fine. And then the other item is this here. An motion. Mike, you didn't have a chance to attend, but John and I met with Tammy Crockett, the business manager at Monty Tech.
Mhm.
And basically, you'll see the motion. It's the motion is move that the select board and town administrator explore the feasibility of the health and dental insurance of all Templeton municipal employees and the Narragansett Regional School District. And the meeting with Tammy today, first of all, I'm very surprised that the town has never explored this option. We were told by Tammy today that Monty Tech has had self-insurance of their medical and dental plans ever since they were created about 50 years ago.
50 years.
So they've had this and they've been very successful with it for 50 years. Monty Tech is similar in the number of employees to the town of Templeton. They have about 200 employees. They're self-insured for medical and dental insurance up to an initial amount of $65,000, after which reinsurance covers any amounts, any claims above $65,000. Monty Tech, like Templeton, has a good claims history. On average, fewer than 10% or right around 5% of the total employees exhaust the $65,000 threshold. Everybody else is well below that threshold. While Tammy did not come up with an exact figure, the potential savings to the town of Templeton municipal budget by this form, by modeling self-insurance after Monty Tech, it could be as much as $400,000 per year. Tammy suggested, and I think it was a very good idea, is that if the town, after exploring this option, it should be thoroughly explored, because the downside is if you had, 5 people with claims of
Catastrophic claims.
it's okay if 10 people have $65,000 in claims, but if you had 100 people or half your pool with that would be catastrophic. So there is some risk. So that risk needs to be assessed. And what Tammy did suggest was that perhaps we could, if the town decided to go that route, would be to implement the dental insurance piece first, try it for a year or two, see how it works, and then do the larger medical piece. But that's my takeaway from the meeting. John was there. I don't know if you have any other takeaways from that, or if I covered pretty much everything.
Could you explain self-insurance so people would understand?
Yes. The best way, what Monty Tech does is that they have Blue Cross Blue Shield who administers the plan, just like if you're part of Blue Cross Blue Shield. The claim process is the same. The benefits are the same. The network of doctors is all the same. The only thing that is different is that there's a chunk of money that Monty Tech provides. I think it was, I believe it's $360,000 a month.
Yep.
And what they do is they pay Blue Cross Blue Shield that amount, and that covers the $65,000 self-insured amount. So they're paying out $366,000 a month. And what happens is if the claims are above that amount, Monty Tech gets billed. If the claims are below that amount, then there's a credit to that account, comes back. And over time, they do have a lot of money in their self-insurance account, for lack of a better term. So it's been very, very successful for them. And then what happens is they have it's gone out to bid, is they have a reinsurance company. And that reinsurance company covers all claims that are
Your safeguard.
Exactly.
above the $65,000.
$65,000.
So there is more exposure than the traditional. What Templeton has is a traditional is, town pays 80%, 75%, 80% of the total premium. The employee pays 20 or 25%. And there's no self-insurance. The money all just goes into a pot, and then as claims come in, it's paid out.
Mhm.
The difference with this is that, there's really a pot. For the first $65,000 in claims, and then the reinsurance covers the rest. The one downfall which would have to be studied is, Monty Tucker's had a very stable, claims history. Is that if you have an unstable group, where the claims really may go, up or down a lot. They have 10 people out of the 200 people they insure meet the $65,000 each year. Most people are well under the $65,000. It falls apart, and it will not work if you had, some number who, I would say it's probably a number between 50 and 100. Where if they all of a sudden had, $65,000 claims, that would not be good. So it's not perfect, but they've used this for 50 years. They've been successful with it for 50 years. And the savings, as I said to the town, is probably, in the $300,000 to $400,000 per year, which with the $10 million budget is a substantial, savings.
And the other positive things with self-insurance, you get to capitalize on, what the co-pays are. You get to just, you get the 25-75% mark. What's that? There's other things that are good attributes to the program. The other downside is the management of the program. I mean, who manages all of this? Obviously would fall on the financial responsibility of the town administrator, or his designee or her designee. But it does take time to manage this. Again, like Jeff always says, we're thinking outside the box here. We're looking at every stone to be unturned. Granted, we only went up like 1.5% this year, with the insurance that we currently have through Maya.
With the projected savings of the $400,000 a year, that's more than could cover an HR person to manage the system along with other HR stuff within the town.
Right, but we don't want we want to start. Again, it's like how this town always used to operate. It's like, once they get us like a windfall of dollars, it's like, let's hire all these different.
Well, you
people.
don't want to load
Yeah.
something like this on your town administrator.
No, I mean, I'd rather spend more money on it.
That would be crazy. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather spend more money on something that's gonna write grants that are gonna bring in, thousands, if not millions of dollars in grants
we
to
need to
town.
hire someone to manage this program.
Potentially. I mean, but I think if we dip our toes in like dental and see how that works first, to that request or that, send that recommendation to the advisory, to the select board first and see how they think about, I mean, just to see how, because dental is smaller and it's more manageable than a larger medical piece. And on top of that, there's some things that are involved that we need to get like the insurance board involved because of all the collective bargaining units that are out there between the different unions. We have to, hopefully, have a good discussion with our partners at the Narragansett Regional School District. See if they would like to come on board. Obviously, our partners at the Light and Water. I mean, there's other, again, baby steps here, but again, we're trying to give the best recommendations we can in order to save dollars and provide more dollars back to the community. And I think that this is just one meeting. And we got so much information out of that one meeting. I thought I was like, wow. And the amount of savings that's potentially here is huge. But thank you for opening that. I appreciate that. Yeah. So do you have you said you want to?
Yeah, I have the motion written
On
on the sheet.
Okay.
Okay. And then the other notes are for.
I got you.
For Jackie or.
Okay, move the select board, the town administrator explore feasibility of the health and dental insurance of the Templeton municipal employees and in the Narragansett Regional School District. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Okay, I have a motion, a second. Any other discussions? I see none. Mike?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. And again, I'll have that motion available via the internet here probably.
Clean copy.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll
You
take that.
you got a copy of that?
Yes, I do. With my notes. All right. We have no correspondence. We have no other old business. Member comments at this time. Noel, do you have any comments?
talked enough.
Excellent. Mike, any comments?
Same as what Noel had.
Excellent. And I do have one comment, and that comment is that there is multiple boards and committees out there that are still lack of people. So please, a village is run by the villagers, so we need everybody to step up. We need everybody to come in to join a committee, join the board. There's so many that are out there that are lacking in personnel. So please, just take a look at the town website, look at all the openings. If you have an interest in finance, you have an interest in the sports with the rec department, if you have interest in anything, I mean, something that interests you, please, put your name in. I mean, paying back to the community and paying that forward, is huge. I do it for myself, it's huge. I know for other people here in my community, I know it's huge. It's just a great thing. So please look into that and put your name in the hat. With that being said, I can take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Okay, a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Excellent. I see none. Mike?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And I want everybody to